So I'm Shelley Gunther. I'm a registered nurse with a mental health and addiction background, and I teach the Health and Wellbeing certificate in mental health and addiction strand. I was working in mental health out there in the workforce and as a registered nurse, and then I became a community psychiatric nurse, and then I became the nurse educator, so I sort of worked up the ranks. And then I was actually approached by Carmel Haggerty, who's now the director for our School of Health. I was approached by Carmel and asked would I come and work temporarily for someone who was doing their PhD. So I said yes, and that was about 13 years ago now. I came for 6 months. I really love working with students, watching them come in on their first day and I can't do this, I'm no good at studying, and I love watching them gain their confidence and grow. I really love watching people grow through their learning opportunities, and now we've got to a stage where at least a third of the class go on to further studies, and usually with here at Whitireia or WelTec. And so I find that really cool, watching people grow, get the confidence, well actually I am good at studying, I can do this, and then they use this course as a stepping stone and go on to do, like for example, their Bachelor of Social Work or their Bachelor of Nursing. It's really rewarding watching them grow. The Certificate of Health and Wellbeing has 4 different strands, and so I teach the Mental Health and Addiction one. It's a year course and there's 4 modules, and completion of the 4 modules see support workers obtain their certificate. It's basically for support workers, but in saying that, we do take others who work with or come across people who have mental health issues. And so yes, in saying that, we can look at other examples, like in the past we've had police. We even had one year we had a lady who worked with horses, and she had a group of people who had mental health issues who came in once a week for riding the horses. So yes, in saying that, we can be adaptable. Okay, so the 4 modules, the first one is whanaungatanga, building relationships. So working with patients, working with service users and their families. Sometimes the people we work with don't have families, but we do look at working with families as well, because if somebody has a mental health and or addiction issue, it can be really tough on the families as well. So working with support workers to teach them how to best manage and support family or whānau. And also in the first module, we look at working ourselves, because if there's stuff going on in our backyard, well, how do we best support others? So we also look at ourselves and communication, which communication is such a big thing. So that's our first module, and that goes for 9 weeks. And the second module is leadership and cultural responsiveness. So it's more about, yes, okay, I work in this field. Now, how do I demonstrate good practice and how effective practice? Because, we might be the best at providing care, but we need to also provide it effectively so that we're working in partnership with the person and their family or whānau. So that's our second one, and we also look at working with Māori and working with Pacific, and also working with new settlers, because that's another field that we do have quite a bit of work involved. The third one is managing safety and practice. So yes, providing good quality care, but also maintaining safety, not only for ourselves, but for the person we're supporting, because sometimes they're in such a bad space, they can't maintain their own safety. So we need to sometimes step in and do it for them and work in partnership with them, but maintain their safety. The fourth module is learning about the various types of mental health and addiction issues. So, okay, you've learnt all these great skills. How do you implement them into practice with people who are going to have a whole host of variety of illnesses? That takes our year. We usually start around March and go to usually by the end of October we're finished. And for each module you have 3 summative assessments. One is a written assessment. The second is a portfolio, which is kind of like a workbook that you demonstrate how you're providing care and what you're doing in your workplace. And the third one is online activities. So we have, for each module, we have around 6 to 7 online activities. That might be a quiz, it might be logging into a discussion forum and talking about something that you did at work. For this program, you have to be working in a mental health and or addiction setting. As a support worker, you need to be employed at least 18 hours per week. So that can be either paid or voluntary. And like I said before, it doesn't exactly have to be a mental health and or addiction setting. We can adapt that. So yeah, it's best if you're thinking, well, okay, I don't work in a mental health setting, however, I'm working in such and such placement. The best thing you can do is actually ask. We look at, in the first week, like I know that on your very first day you come in, you're anxious and you hear about a fifth of what's been said because you're so anxious and you know it's a new environment. A lot of our students that come into my program haven't been at school for a number of years. A number of my students also have English as the second language. So what I do in the first week is we try to help them to relax as much as possible. So on the first day, we do a lot of team building things, a lot of getting to know the tutor and the students in a relaxed atmosphere, try to get everyone relaxed. The first day we're sort of talking about team building and talking about what brought you to the course, what you hope to achieve, that kind of thing, and what you may expect to find during the year while you're doing the program. And then the second day, when they're a little bit more relaxed and not so anxious, we look at the orientation stuff, like we use Moodle. So a lot of people haven't heard of Moodle, so we go over what Moodle is and how to use it. We look at the library, how to use the library effectively, how to use e-library. We look at writing, because some people can write, but it's actually about how you write academically. So we do all the, those sort of nuts and bolts orientation things on the second day. So my guys, when they come into the course, they're actually only on campus for 2 days at the beginning together. And then for every module, you come on campus for 3 days per module. The rest of the time is online, because for a lot of the people on our program, they work shift work as well. So a lot of the stuff is now online, which is actually easier in some aspects because people can work outside of their shifts and at a time that suits them. normally if a person already has their position, but in the past, I've had people that have come to me and said, look, I really want to do this course. I'm really interested in mental health and addiction work, but I can't get a placement. And so I have luckily got established some relationships out there in the community. And so I've managed to be able to get them a placement, and out of the people that I've managed to get a placement, they've actually ended up being offered a position in that area when they've completed the course. So yeah, that's really good as well. So for people that have been unemployed, they've ended up being employed.